Hello, Yizhao Martins, licensed marriage and family therapist, couples therapist. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I have many appreciations and gratitudes in my life, including you as my followers and viewing my videos and learning with me along the way. We've been talking about CPTSD and ADHD, and so far we talked about how when someone with ADHD, they might be more vulnerable to have CPTSD because of negative childhood experiences. And I notice in my private practice, people with ADHD tend to pair up with people with CPTSD. How so? I got curious, so I want to inquire. About 98% of my clients are ADHD affected couples, and among them, almost 100%, at least one partner, or sometimes both partners, have signs of CPTSD. In my previous videos, I talked about what does CPTSD look like, what might be some of the causes. So basically, CPTSD is a nervous system challenge. I'd say because of negative childhood experiences, our nervous system was still developing when we were young, and we need regulation. We need co-regulation from our caregivers. But when, for some reason, our caregivers are not able to provide that consistent, safe co-regulation, while our nervous system get dysregulated, and we didn't have the capacity to self-regulate yet. So we developed some maladaptive ways to regulate ourselves, thinking about the 5 F's, right? Fight, flight, fawn, freeze, and fix. So none of those are bad. They're functional in a way to help us to adapt and to survive in some way. But if we got stuck in 1 or 2 or 5 of them, and without the capacity to go back to our homeostasis, we have this 5 F's in the background burning all the time, consuming our energy, which can be really channeled to work towards our goals in life. So I wanted to focus in the next couple of sessions to talk about how CPTSD partner, the non-ADHD partner that have signs of CPTSD, and how they are attracted to someone with ADHD or other conditions that need a lot of caregiving, a lot of hope and saving, that they tend to overfunction in the relationship and burnout. So when I look at those parts, as you hear me talk about in ourselves and our psyche, it tend to come developed because of our adverse childhood experiences that put us in a vulnerable place, right, to develop those CPTSD symptoms. So I will be talking about first the core wounds of those people, and then I will talk about how from the core wounds we develop 2 kinds of parts: the early childhood vulnerable parts and the more developed teenager parts that tend to be protective of us and serving a function for us to survive, for us to move forward in life without being totally falling apart. But they tend to be immature and maladaptive and rigid. And if we didn't learn any other ways to adapt to the world, but really only rely on those younger parts, you can imagine we're just a whole bunch of teenagers walking around, right? So for the partner who doesn't have ADHD, those who are showing signs of CPTSD, I mean, there's also the group of people who are super healthy, they don't have any, issues, well, which I don't see them in my private practice. And so personally, I'm very good at spotting other people's core wounds and their parts, and I see that everywhere, including my friends, family members, some teachers, trainers. I think everybody has our own thing to work on. So there's no need to point finger at other people saying, okay, you're the damaged one. that I'm okay. That doesn't work. So at some point, I will talk to you about my parts and how those parts come together and organize my life, and how I work on those parts and heal from them, and in the process, still process and healing from them. So the partners without ADHD, when they have CPTSD symptoms, what are the parts that's very prevalent? So I'm going to give you a general summary today, and we'll dive in the next couple of weeks to take a closer look at them. So I notice the ADHD partner tend to have a core wound of I'm not good enough, or I'm bad, or I will never be good enough. Something along the line about acceptance and rejection. Well, the CPTSD partner may have that, the non-ADHD partner may have that, but very often they tend to have another core wound. I call the abandonment core wound. Basically, it goes like, no one sees me, no one cares about me, no one hears me, no one chooses me, that I'm not worth people's attention and love, and that I am not cared for, that they will leave me, basically. That will be abandoned. Right? So if you think about this core wood, how people develop different parts around that. If they choose to act in, which they attack themselves, and they tend to get depressed, right? And if they act out their aggression and their frustration that no one chooses me, no one cares for me, and my needs don't matter, and they have a different presentation that can have anger outbursts, they can have some what I call a fight-flight response, which means I hit and run, I attack you, then I go away. I don't listen to what you have to say. Right? That's a typical part, more like a teenager part for the CPTSD non-ADHD partner could potentially develop. And then the acting part could be, well, I'm not good enough. Well, I don't deserve to be cared for. You're gonna leave me anyway. That I better make myself better, right? Make myself worth your time and your energy and your care. So they tend to show up as a perfectionistic later, develop as a teenager part perfectionistic, intellectual, using intellectualization to dissociate from their feelings, their somatic bodily responses and reactions and sensations, and they get stuck in their head. They analyze the other person, and when they turn their finger at other people, you know that this is the outer critic, right? The inner critic and the outer critic. All of those are parts to protect ourselves, so we don't have to sit with this pain of being left and not responded to, which is actually quite normal. If you think about it, healthy in life, we cannot be attended to all the time, right? There will be some quiet, still moment in between noises, right? That we need to sit with our own self, our own feelings, our sensations, and our essence, right? But it's really hard for people with CPTSD to tolerate that silence, that quietness, right? Because they're constantly going outside the grasp for people to reach out and say, give it to me, connect with me. And then another maladaptive part they develop is through giving, right? The savior part, the fixer part, the caregiver part. All of those are overfunctioning parts. They have different variations. They have the same basis, is, well, I give, I reach out in order to get connected and love. They don't trust that if they just be still and let other people come to them and love them, because there's a core wound that I am not seen and loved, cared for, right? So I will spend the next couple weeks to really dive into those acting parts, acting out parts, and all of those teenager parts that's being developed along the way. So for those teenager protecting parts, they are also the one in IFS, they call it the manager, which is the proactive, responsible parts, like the perfectionistic, the planner, the organizer, the caregiver, the savior, the fixer, right? And also this side is the more impulsive, reactive parts. They tend to act out like hit and run, right? Abandon other people first before they abandon you. Constantly break up with your partner whenever you don't get your needs met and you feel that you're not being seen and cared for. Before they can hurt you more, you run away, right? And also the one that rely on other things to regulate themselves. May that be food or sex, or criticizing other people sometimes, or work. All of those could be a way to dissociate from what's really happening is the hurt and the pain when other people are not there connecting with you, the disconnection. Okay? So I hope this is not too heavy for you for Thanksgiving Day. May you have all the grace and love in your life, and I will see you next week, my friends.